Okay, we're recording, and this is a group of friends, and we're just kind of hanging out together. We all know each other and meet regularly in our free drop-in Zoom meetings. And so we have no particular agenda. We're just going to see what comes up. But we thought maybe we'd just introduce ourselves. I'm Richard, I'm in London, and I love coming to these hangouts to share this open space with friends and our different reactions to this. And I've been doing this for quite a long time, and that's me. In-depth report. So, someone else?
Yes, I'll go next.
Oh, no. Good, Jeffrey. Good.
All right. Sorry for that, Ellis, for stepping in. But I'm Jeff. I'm from Los Angeles, and I love these meetings because it's an opportunity to both meet with similarly minded people, my new friends. Well, they're not new anymore because they're now my friends. And also to develop a sort of experiential way of personal and spiritual development, which is what makes this, I think, unique. So it's sort of a methodology where you can do experiments and see for yourself what happens and what your reactions are.
Great, thank you. Alice.
Hi, I'm Ellis. I'm from Oregon. I live in Oregon on the west coast of the US. And I was introduced to headlessness last summer at Brighton Bush at the Oregon Gathering. And as I've said previously, it seems like years and years and years and years ago. It's really interesting. So I love coming to these hangouts because I love everyone who shows up. That just keeps growing and growing. And there's always something spontaneous that happens, a new insight, and we just invent different, there's lots of different techniques out there for seeing who we are, but it just happens spontaneously on these meetings all the time. So it's a great place to be reminded who we are.
Thank you. Who's next?
May I?
Yeah, Ilka.
Hi, my name is Ilka, and I'm from Germany, and I am on the headless path for about 3 years. And I have the same sense about time as Alice has, obviously, because it feels like I've been doing this for 10 years or so, and my whole apprehension of time has somehow changed. It has quickened or gotten slower. It depends on how you express it. What I love is meeting my friends here, which have really grown very close to my heart just by being there and showing themselves as persons that come from exactly the same point where I am and where I've always been for my whole life without knowing it. But now I know it, and the others know it as well. And so that makes great company. And what also touches me is that my insecurities about doing it right, am I doing it right, and am I doing it enough, and is it working well, and some kinds of questions that arise about this helplessness, that they are also mirrored by the other people here in these hangouts. So it's always a great opportunity to share our ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill. I live in Hawaii, and I've been interested in headlessness for quite a while. And I'll tell you about the last 3 or 4 days, I've been interested in this experiment in particular. It's where I'm pointing. It's called two-way pointing. If you haven't done it before, it's where you point out at what you're looking at in that direction out there, and at the same time pointing in the opposite way to look at what you're looking out of. And I've really been interested in thinking about doing this experiment and thinking about what it means. And to make it short, I've come to the conclusion that you need to have both views to live consciously. Be aware of what you're looking out there and what you're looking out from here. And both are necessary. And one is easier to see than the other sometimes. Sometimes they're both equally easy to see. But it's a very interesting experiment, very simple, and seems to bring the whole headlessness thing into one simple experiment. If you haven't come to these meetings before, welcome. We can't see you, but you can see us. But in a way, we can see you too. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Rob. I'm from Seattle. Have been coming to these meetings since Brighton Bush last year. It's always fresh. It's always a shared experience, I guess. I was thinking it's like a meeting of the minds, but it is only one mind with many different views. So I always get something out of these when I show up. And this headlessness has been a wondrous kind of journey, the wonder I was feeling this morning, the wonder of it all. So that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Tom. Can you hear me, Richard?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I encountered my headless nature maybe 4 to 5 years ago when reading Douglas Harding. It didn't happen the first time. A year later, I read it again, and I saw that there was no head here, but the world was presenting itself as the view out. I find these hangouts invaluable, not only helping me come back to that place, and it's always a coming back, but also it helps me with this sense of aloneness that can accompany my headless state when I'm there. You know, somehow I can feel through these hangouts the connection with other centers in this consciousness that we share. So the hangouts have become a part of my thankfully part of my world.
Thank you, Tom. Who's next? Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine in, Maui is in me. And I'm very thankful. It's a beautiful, beautiful space to have flowing into oneself. And I encountered headlessness. First of all, I saw many, many books by Douglas Harding before I ever went to Brighton Bush. And it's funny because at that point, almost every time I would go to like a secondhand store or a used bookstore, there would be these Douglas Harding books almost jumping off the shelves toward me. And at this point, now that I have encountered headlessness, I never find them anymore. And I want to find them. It was like the universe wanted me to know this. And it sounds sort of woo-woo to say that, but it's funny because it's true. I did see all those Douglas Harding books before, and I can't find them anymore. But I've since ordered many of them from Amazon, and Richard's books are immensely helpful, especially the graphic novel. There's a graphic novel. I don't know. I'm forgetting the name right now. It's
The Man with No Head.
The Man with No Head. There you go. Okay, now we need the woman with no head. Richard's got to balance this out now. And then sorry. And also Richard's other book, Celebrate Who You Are, is also beautiful. And thanks to Ellis, I just ordered David Lang's book, A Flower in the Desert, I think it's called. So I haven't read it yet, but I'm grateful to have these lovely pointers, because we can see our headlessness, and which points to our true nature at any time. It's always available. And we don't need to read books. We don't need to be reminded. We don't need to, work at it, because it's always there. And yet, personally, I've found these additional pointers to be helpful. So, it's entirely a personal journey. It's whatever works for you to continue seeing. So I'll pass it on to someone else.
Hey, Christine, I'll bet you couldn't find the books anymore because other people needed to read them more than you did.
True.
Matthew?
Hi, my name is Matthew. I live in Oregon, and I'm just really, I'm just really curious to this question about who am I, and this realization of everything I've ever done up until now only exists in thought, and so just wondering that question, who am I? It's just been resonating with me lately. So that's what's going on with me. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sequoia?
Yeah, my name's Sequoia. I live on the Oregon coast in the United States, and I first discovered my headless nature watching the video of Richard doing an interview on Buddha at the gas pump, which I highly recommend. And since then, I've been joining these hangouts, and they're the highlight of my week. I've met a lot of wonderful people to share this wide open, boundless space with, and I feel very blessed to be here. Thanks.
Hi, I am Wouter from Amsterdam. I think I had about 30 years ago, some headless experiences during meditation. And that was quite fascinating. I didn't understand so much about it, but it was real for me. In a sense, then later I discovered more books, and which I didn't read, but it was 2 years ago I attended a workshop in Amsterdam with Richard, and then it touched base, or so it became a touchstone. It changed my outlook in a literary sense, literal sense. And there's some understanding coming now as to where I can see myself not from a personal standpoint, but also from a non-conceptual self, or a headless. Yeah, it's called headless. So, and that's amazing. So, and I practice it, I don't know, a few times a week, or I try to do it daily. And it's a kind of personal relationship I experience with this seeing. And I tend the Zoom hangouts as much as I can during the week. It's wonderful. So thank you.
Jeff, did you say something? I'm trying to remember.
I believe I did, but
Okay.
I can say something else.
You could introduce us or the viewer to the experience that we're talking about. How would you point to it? Take us through an experiment, Jeff.
Okay. Well, it makes sense, since this might be the first time for the viewer, to do the classic #1 pointing exercise. And what that simply involves is you take your hand and you stick your finger out. Well, step by step here. I'm in teacher mode right now. All right, so you're going to point at an object in front of you. It can be in the room, or it could be through a window. And look at the object. Look at the shape, the size, the color of the object. You can also look at the texture of the object and just perceive it and be aware of it. Next, go to a second object in front of you, maybe closer to you, and likewise look at the shape, the color, the position from your finger, and also look at the texture of the object, maybe the depth of the object, but perceive the object. Now, take your finger and point it at your foot or your shoe in front of you. And look at your foot or shoe and notice its shape, its size, what color it is. And notice the distance of the object from your finger. Next, point at your knee. Look at the shape, the size. Is it covered by clothes or is it bare? What is its distance from your finger? Now, take your finger and point it at your stomach or chest. Once again, look at the shape, the color of the shirt that you might be wearing. Notice if it's moving a little bit because you're breathing. And notice the texture. What is the distance of the finger from your stomach or chest? Finally, point directly at where you're looking out of. And look to see if, just by experience alone, just right now, can you see anything? Can you notice any shape or size or color, or even the distance from your finger to what you're pointing at? You might also ask yourself, can you even really see your head or anything behind your head? What is your experience?
So Jeff and everybody, how would you respond if someone now says, well, okay, I can't see my head. I point at things, point there, but point here, no thing. But so what?
Well, like with anything that one is first starting out with, I would say give it a little opportunity. Maybe try it 4 or 5 times today at different times. So now that we're online or you're watching this video, you may have one experience. But when you're sitting on your couch, which I like to do, you'll have another experience. And then also when you're outside, you're going to have another experience. And without even judging or analyzing it, I would say just notice what the experience is. And then finally ask yourself, can you detect maybe a emptiness or a vastness when you're pointing your finger at your head? And just keep that question in mind. Can you notice a emptiness or a vastness where you're pointing at? And that would be my answer.
Very good.
Yeah, it's fascinating because when I do this, like if I'm doing this, from your view, you can obviously see a head and you can see a finger and you can see space in between. But if we all experiment and we look away from the screen and we look at without looking at any images, look at that finger, and if we say, okay, how far is that finger from our head? We can easily, the mind will say, well, it's about 6 to 8 inches because it fills in the blank and says there's a head here. But if we just notice the space and realize that we are just the space, then it's immeasurable. You can't measure it because we're just that space. So it's interesting to realize from this view, I have no head. And then if I look at the screen, if we all look at the screen and we look at our heads, that's just an image of our head, right? But yet something is seeing that image. So if something can see that image, that thing out there obviously isn't us.
So why might that be important for you, Matthew, to notice you can't see your own head right now? Why might that, to find this immeasurable space, what's important about that?
When I look out, there's a sense of, and I shift back and forth, even at the beginning of this meeting and throughout almost the entire day, there's a self-consciousness that will happen, but then it'll shift in and out. So if I look out at things, there's just a sense of openness as opposed to a sense of aloneness, a sense of I'm isolated to a sense of everything's included. And so for me, it's all-encompassing, and even when self-consciousness comes and aloneness comes and sadness comes or happiness comes, they all are, as Jeffrey was saying, they're forms, they're identifiable. Even a thought can be identifiable, but they come and they go. But the awareness, there's awareness of that doesn't come and go. So I can hear sounds right now in my cul-de-sac, crows, I can see your faces. Things just keep coming and going. I don't have to do anything. It's refreshing.
Yeah, right. When I point out there, things always come and go. They're always changing. When I point here, it's always the same. It's something somehow always permanent. So I have both the temporary in that way and what's permanent in this way.
For me, as a teacher of, like right now, this year, I'm teaching 9th grade English, which is like 14-year-olds, and a lot of students are going through hormonal changes and a lot of different things in their lives that can sometimes make this particular group challenging to teach sometimes, and joyful to teach. But when things get difficult in the classroom, for example, if someone comes in and they're already like set off and somehow they've broken up with their significant other, and they're in a mood, and they're going through this teenage angst, it's lovely to be able to see that I can become them and not necessarily be against them. Like if I've got my face, if I have if I'm putting on my head and I'm like being trying to control the way they are in the classroom, or trying to change that person instead of just allowing everything, it's so much easier to just go, okay, I'm open, I'm spacious, I am this individual, I give up my face in favor of you, and I can just be completely open capacity for what's going on in the classroom. And it's so much easier and so much better to just allow things to be as they are, and to also recognize that I am that. And it just gives more space. It just gives less reactivity and more acceptance. So as a teacher, it's invaluable for classroom management, for being more compassionate, and being just in the flow. There's kind of this, like with athletes, they get into the flow and they lose their self, so to speak. Well, this is a way of getting into the flow. And it's very, very simple. You just recognize it. And there are a variety of different experiments that are pointers to who you really are. And those pointers point to this open, spacious awareness that is capacity for everything. So ultimately, I recognize that I am nothing, which is space for everything. And that means that who I really am was never born, could never die, is not a body, is not thoughts, is not emotions. I mean, it's easy to say what we're not. It's easier to do the negation, because there are so many things that make it seem like we are that. But just take a look for yourself and see what you are. That's the best thing.
It's fascinating because I think of anxiety, right? And it's like, is the problem anxiety, or is the problem that there's a thought that says anxiety shouldn't be there? And for me, it's the thought that says anxiety shouldn't be there. So with headlessness, it's all encompassing. The space of transparency says yes to everything that's going on. You might as well, because it's there. And so now if I'm having a conflicting conversation with a coworker, or I'm in a situation where I feel the solar plexus tightening, there's not a sense of this shouldn't be here. There's just a sense of, oh, there it is, and it's going to come, it's going to go, and it's it's really refreshing. So in my world anyway, I find that I talk to everyone. It's like the humanness in me just feels like I'm just this connection to everyone. Even assholes, it's like an asshole can come up and it's like, oh my God, I feel this connection to them, because it's just, so what? Like, I can't explain it.
Well, I find that other people are bound to experience me differently than I experience myself. For instance, a simple example is other people are sure that I see out of two eyes, but I say, no, I don't see out of two eyes. I see out of one big eye that doesn't have an edge. It just goes on forever. But they say, no, you have two little eyes inside of your skull. And I just don't experience that. So there's conflict right there from the get-go.
Well, to answer your question, Richard, so what? It changes the whole perspective of everything. I mean, you are switching your attention 180 degrees, and so things would naturally have to change. It would naturally have to be different by about 180 degrees. So it impacts all aspects of my life. I know that. And when I recognize, as Christine points out, that I'm face to no face with others, that I'm pure capacity for them, my interactions with others soften. I'm much more compassionate and open in those situations. And I can't say that there's one aspect of this life that isn't impacted by knowing my true nature, my true headlessness. That's a pretty big so what.
Another way of looking at this, or responding to Richard's so what question, is that when we were doing the experiment, at least for me, and pointing to things, whether out there or when one started to point at one's body and then came up and pointed here, one sees that one is not pointing at a thing. One is pointing at one's experience in a way, which is not a thing, this aware capacity. And what a relief to not be a thing, and just what an amazing finding that one is not a thing. It changes, for me, it changes my whole view of my existence.
When I first heard the word capacity at the Brighton Bush gathering, I just didn't get it. In fact, I don't know if it's a word for me. I am a capacity for this. But in doing this experiment we just did today, what happens for me is a melting. I think it's just a little bit like what Tom said. It's just, I'm not a thing, yeah. I'm not in the world. The world is in me, that it suits better anyhow. But it really feels like a melting. I know Nadine was talking about that with ice cubes. So it could be all of our different conditionings, how we might word the experience of headlessness. And the word capacity, I don't know why, it sounds so engineer-like to me, so I can't use it. I don't know. Anyhow, I just find that that's kind of sweet and interesting because I know that everyone has had, has had that same experience. We are all from this one consciousness, and yet we're so expressive and interesting in different ways. So.
For me, being nothing means I'm open for everything else that's going on around me, which is a relief.
It's great to hang out, for me, with a group of people who are aware of this open space, this capacity, this no thing, whatever you want to call it. And it is self-evidently a non-verbal experience. You can't get it wrong. You can't see your head. Instead, you see the world. And there's no hierarchy, is there? There's no degrees of this. We're all seeing it perfectly, if you like. But we've got different reactions, which is so interesting to see how this works out in everybody's lives.
So, and when we are hearing each other talk, this always takes place in the now. And today's date is the 22nd of May, I think. And whenever
21st.
21st. Thank you. And whenever anybody of us will might watch this again, or perhaps other people might watch it, then it will be their date. But the now is still then there, because anybody who will listen to these words will only be listening them in the now and to no other time whatsoever. And they will also listen to them in that thing that we are trying to describe here, in that consciousness and in this capacity for the sound that is taking place. And all our voices are taking place in exactly the same capacity. So it is always here where we are listening to whatever sound comes up. So this is for me the absolutely foolproof way to live in the here and the now. I mean, we're doing it all the time anyway, but by headlessness gives me a way to be aware of that fact that I'm only ever always living in the here and the now and nowhere else.
Yeah, that's great, because you don't have to worry about missing out on anything, about being too late. It's always now.
Yes. And what you said, Bill, I like that you said all the other things, they come and go, but what is here does not come and go. And there's another thing that comes and goes, and that is my attention for the fact that I'm aware. That also comes and goes. Sometimes I'm aware of being.
That's still always there. Whether you're aware of it or not, it's still always there.
Yes. Exactly.
Something for me is kind of along the learning mode and learning about attention, and that how in my life, my attention from the time I was born was always focused outward, intensely focused outward on what is happening out there. And this learning about, or learning how to turn my attention around and get the view in, it changes everything. It changes the view out. The view out, the word I think Matthew used was all-inclusive. It makes it all-inclusive without, without the push and pull. And that learning for me has been probably the best part of it. So
And how does that help you sometimes, Rob? I mean, what can you identify any ways in which it's helped you?
When speaking with others, especially, in my experience, it has always been a distance and a separateness. And I find that I can, by shifting that attention, by turning my attention around and realizing, rather than a face, I am this open space for the other person. It changes it changes the whole conversation almost. And it definitely changes the way I feel about the conversation, whatever it is, whether there's a conflict or whether we're, on the same page, so to speak.
Mm.
So that's very helpful to me.
Mm.
An amazing aspect for me about, sorry if I interrupted, about being this open space for everything is that I'm open space for the guy I see in the mirror when I look in the mirror, or we sometimes refer to it as the little guy that I believe I am in the human world, or that acts and so on. So being that aware space for the little guy is both a wonderful thing, a very very true, but also can be a difficult thing because that little guy is subject to time. Impermanence is a thing. So there are paradoxes in this view that can be difficult, but also wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah, there's no need to run away from it anymore. I love what you said, Thomas. It's like this morning I woke up and my face was sunburnt and I went to bed with my hair wet and it was sticking up and I had wrinkles from sleeping crunched in my pillow. And I looked in the mirror and I was just like, oh my God, what an atrocious sight, right? Like it was just a sense of, oh my God, that's me. And then, but yet just be in space for that. It's like I don't have to run from it anymore. It's just like, okay, there it is. So what? Just so what? And then then you just kind of move on with it. It's very refreshing.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love the way you use the word "so what" to that, and as a response to Richard's question of "so what." One of the nice responses is that one can say "so what."
I'd like to do another experiment.
Good.
So I guess I'm encouraging the viewer to participate in the experiments, because otherwise it just becomes like a thinking thing. And headlessness it goes beyond thinking. It goes beyond logical mind and reason. And it's like, it just has to be experienced. And that's the best way to understand and recognize what's being pointed at, is to do it. So I highly recommend just following along. So what I'd like everyone to do is to grab onto these things we call our ears, and close your eyes and ask yourself, how far apart are my ears? And just with your eyes closed, internally look and ask yourself, how far apart are these, are what I'm holding on to? How far apart is it? And just do an internal look. How big is this? Is it small? Is it wide? How wide can this go? And then open your eyes again. And it's funny because when we look on the little screen, it looks like we're holding our ears, which, you know, in this outer view we are. But then on the inner view, when you're doing this, you can put your hands down. It just feels like, it doesn't even feel like ears to me. It just feels like I'm holding on to, I don't know, something that's doesn't feel like ears. But so when people say, but I can feel my face, and so I have a head, and so someone would be able to go, okay, well, I have a head, I can feel it. But when I close my eyes and I touch my face, if everyone could just close your eyes and touch this face, does it feel definitely like your face? Like, can you be certain that, I mean, to me, it feels like a story that I'm telling myself of what I'm feeling. It's
For
hard
me, Christine, it feels like sensations that
Right.
don't necessarily have words to go with them. There may be some pressure, maybe some softness, some warmth, but other than that, on my current experience, I can't tell what it is I'm actually touching.
Exactly. And if someone wants to take it from there, that's perfect. I just wanted to kind of address for the viewer that, you know, someone might say, yeah, but I can see out there that I have a face, or I can feel that I have a face, or I could touch my head. And there are all kinds of, like, you know, arguments to argue that, yes, you have a face. And in a sense, everyone has a head and everyone has a face. We don't disagree with that. What's being pointed at is that when you look and you point, like for myself, I can't see my face, and that's a pointer to my true nature. It's a pointer to my true nature, to that which is unborn, undying, beyond body, beyond form, beyond conditions, beyond mind and explanation. It's wordless. It's an experience. It's a mystery. And so what's being pointed to is for you as the viewer to look for yourself, ask for yourself, and experience for yourself. And so getting caught up in the trap of, oh, but I can feel my head, or getting caught up in the trap of, I can see it out there. But then if you can see it out there, that's not who you really are. Like, when I look, my head's this big. So it's like, that's not who I am. And I know it. So if someone wants to jump in, perfect.
Well, it just shows there's a world of difference between what's going on, what I see going on out there and here. Because when I do this, I see a person out there with their head and their ears between their hands. But here, I don't have any sense of how far apart my hands are. It could be a world apart for all I know. It's just so different in that direction and this direction, and yet they both exist. They're both true. So I have to live with that difference. But I don't. It's not a chore or a burden. In a way, it's very liberating because I have both worlds. I'm in both worlds.
And I'll take it on.
But they seem to be. Oh.
Oh no, go on, Alice, please.
I would say, well, that could be that just because, like Ilka was saying in the swimming, that we just, sensations are different than viewing. Here's a sensation, so, and then I'm looking out there at a face. I mean, aren't both of those things in the world of awareness? Like this, what am I trying to say? To me, that it comes often down to me is, can we really be aware without an object of awareness? That's all. It's still a puzzle to me. And so whenever I go there, I have to, it's like Bill saying, I have to go here. And then I have to ask myself the question, where's the boundary? And then it's like, this doesn't get me to here. I have to go there. And then I have to ask, where's the boundary? So.
When you notice you can't see ahead, instead you see the world. Yes.
I don't stop with, I can't stop, which I sometimes sense in the Hangouts, that people kind of stop here, here, and say, words of void, capacity, openness, and things like that. And then I just can't ignore there. I really don't want to ignore there. I don't know.
I think that's a good point, Alice. And perhaps that points to the non-verbal nature of it, and words don't encompass it. I take your point. You can't see your no-head without seeing the world. Yeah, they go together.
But in terms of the so what, I would say, since that gathering, I would say the world, this is oddly, but the world is so much more interesting to me. So that's sort of a weird paradox. It's just unbelievably fascinating, all that stuff out there. So, someone would say, oh, this is so fascinating.
No, I agree.
But anyhow.
I agree. It's a paradox. I agree. It's a paradox, and you do need both. You need the world and awareness of the world, but awareness isn't an object. It's awareness is what makes the world possible to you, knowledgeable to you. So you need both.
So if you look at the screens right now and you can see, just look at one image, doesn't really matter which one, and then look at another image. So you have face to face. There's a face to another face. And then choose another one, another image. And the viewer, if you're watching this video, you can do it too. Look on the screen, you see one image and then another image. So it's face to face. And then if you haven't already, choose your own image. It's still just image, face to another image, face. And now, even if you're on your sofa or if it's one of us looking, notice from the place that's looking. Look at the screen, there's an image. Now notice from the place that's looking. It's no face. So it's face, screen, no face from this place that's looking. And just somewhat sit in that for a moment. Just realize there's something viewing it. No face. No face here, face there.
And from this no face here, it's kind of interesting if I look at my picture on the screen, that someone said it's so small. And it is. If I see from my no face, I see this tiny image of me on the screen. But if, again, I look and I see myself on the screen in the room I'm in, I see that my head is not so small on the screen, but it almost fills the room, my head. It's almost as big as the door. So how can this be? I look from the no face, I see the screen, I see a small self on the screen, and I also see a head, which is, if I go closer, it fills the room even more. It's 1/3 of the room. So in a way, that's interesting from the no face point of view, because I try to fit in the world all the time, try to do my best, try to work, try to do this, try to make myself clear, try to understand myself for myself. And so to communicate not even with other people, but also get along with me and what do I want. And so to go and see from the seeing from the no face, then immediately all this battle, all this struggle drops in a way. All these views, all this self-divining, all these self-conscious tricks we play on ourselves. So that's a relief of for me. So it's a kind of clarity in bringing it all in perspective. In one view, in one, yeah.
It's like you say, Wouter, it's totally incongruent. The experience that I have when I point back to the picture in the mirror, it's the two. It can't be true that that is me, given my first person experience of sensation, of sound, of sight. The two are totally incongruent and don't meld.
And I find in my life, I kind of swing between Richard and who I am. And I suppose when I'm in Richard, I'm face to face with others. I'm, potentially in conflict. And then I swing to who I am, and there's no one else. I'm not in conflict with anyone. Everything is within me. And then I swing back to Richard, and then I swing back to who I am. And I think, oh, thank goodness at least I swing here, I'm not just, I'm both, I'm both. I love being Richard, and I love the fact that you're all you, but also I have access to this one. It has struck me recently how wonderful, because everything is inside me, so I'm not in conflict. I'm not in conflict with anyone or anything, because everything's inside me. And that helps me when I feel I'm in conflict. We've got a few minutes left. Any final thoughts, as we come to a close here? Any final thoughts about?
I just had one quick thing with Christine's experiment. I've been wanting to try and add it to it. It'll just take 30 seconds. So if we put our hands, if we put our hands on our cheeks, and if you're watching the video and want to do this, put your hands on your cheeks. This is for the people that say, I have a head. So close your eyes. And now notice there's thoughts. You can picture your hands, picture your face. And then there's the feeling sensations. So just go to the feeling sensations. Okay? And then with the feeling sensations, without moving as much as possible, or just like relax, Ask yourself the question, where do the hands stop and the head start? Or where does the head start and the hands stop? And then notice the sensation of the right hand face, and then go to the sensation of left hand face, and then notice sensation of right hand face, left hand, and let them all mingle together. And notice that it's just, there's no dividing line. There's no clear parameter. And then you can put your hands down and open your eyes. It's just a fun thing that I like to do. And then I like listening to sounds when I do that. And for me, the sound vibrations move in, and something to play with.
And when you're speaking, Matthew, and then you're talking to me and you hear my voice, isn't it your experience, certainly mine, that both voices are within me? Both voices are, in a sense, mine. I mean, I know that's Richard's voice and your voice is Matthew's voice, but both voices are in this one consciousness. Do you find the same?
Yeah, and the children playing in the background, or the crow. It all comes, it all goes. And for sake of existing and going through life, I have to call this one Matthew and, be a person,
But privately, secretly, you enjoy being everything.
Yes.
I don't know why, but who was going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to add, Richard, that Matthew, when I did that, at first when you asked me that, I go, no, I can feel my hand and there's my head. But then when you said kind of mix it, right, then that's when I got sort of that mass of feelings. So I guess it's like a two-step process. First, you see that separation, but then when you ask yourself, but now try to make it together into one sort of biomass, then I was one feeling.
Right, and the first way is necessary if there's a cavity and you're trying to explain it to a dentist, right, where it's located. So we need that, right? So this is the beauty of headlessness. We need both, right? So it's awesome.
Isn't that wild that we all have a sense of being separate, but we're all aware of being the one? I mean, that's why I love hanging out with you all, because you're aware of your individuality and you're aware of being the one, and we share this amazing setup somehow. And I can say, I am room for all of you, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Is that true?
Yes, it is, Richard. It's must-see TV. That's what this is.
Is what?
Well, in America, we had this term must-see TV.
Ah.
It's like an advertisement for TV, but this is must-see TV right here.
Jeff, I am room for you. Are you room for me?
I am capacity for you.
Oh. No, Ellis doesn't like that word, so that won't work.
That was for Ellis.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to sign out.
Yeah. Well, let's close together. So lovely to see you all. And,
yes.
Bye.
And just to the viewer, if you're interested in joining one of these meetings, they're free. Just get in touch with me through the website. So great to see you all again soon.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.